It's okay. It's okay. It's alright. No one's gonna take you away. FM, who are you talking with? I'm supposed to be the only voice in your head you talk to. Marv, this isn't about you. This is about them. I'm just assuring them that they are safe. It's okay, guys. It's alright. Mr. Bay can't hurt you. What up, family? Follow Marvel here, and for all of my 30 and up clan, we are going to dip in some more nostalgia as we talk about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. Yep, the sequel to the 2014 remake that a lot of people were split about is here, and we are going to discuss it. Come on, old men, gather around and talk about something you should have grew out of once you hit puberty. Wow, Marv, rude much? FM, we are talking about a series about mutant turtles that are teenagers who love pizza and live in a sewer. How are you supposed to take that seriously? Marv, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that from you. You're going to get the good, the bad, my personal insights, and a little bit of spoiler talk at the end, which I will signal. So don't worry, I will not ruin anything for you if you haven't seen the movie yet. Regardless of how precious this series is to me, I will go forth and give you a fair analysis. So anyway, let's get this review started. The movie actually starts us off with the turtles. It doesn't have to go through this long exposition or anything trying to lead up to some type of reveal. We actually start the movie off with the turtles. Once again, the interaction between the four brothers is easily the best thing about this movie. The movie doesn't take its time introducing all the other characters. Literally within like the first 15 minutes, you're pretty much introduced to everybody. Our new Shredder, played by Brian T, I believe that's his name, he basically was a breath of fresh air for the character in this version of Ninja Turtles. He was actually more developed in this movie. He wasn't just this shadowy figure that you never really get to know in the first movie and just in the Transformers samurai suit. But either way it goes, he actually did a pretty good job. Still would have preferred Uncle Phil's voiceover for Shredder though. Well, I prefer the more menacing Shredder from the original movie, so hey, let's not split hairs. Then of course we get introduced to the comic relief baddie duo of Bebop and Rocksteady, and I have to say, for the most part, those two guys were entertaining. Yeah, Gary Anthony Williams is Bebop and WWE Sheamus is Rocksteady, and they played off each other pretty well for the most part. It's just, the thing is, you don't expect anything really serious from them. They are mainly there just for comic relief and nothing else. Were you really expecting anything different from a mutant warthog and rhinoceros? Well, obviously not. It's like expecting something different from Bulk and Skull from Power Rangers. See, I made him show his age. Why did I get this dude as a voice in my head? What I like this time around is the turtles themselves are actually characters in this movie. They are not used as just like props or just something to just propel the story like they did with the first movie. They actually have something that's actually driving their characters, and they feel more important in this movie. As they should be, because they were suffering from the Transformers syndrome, where the title characters are basically relegated as props to motivate the story for other characters. That was actually a story that they built between the brothers that I think came together pretty well and was easily the best thing about the movie. And we actually have ninjas being ninjas in the movie. You mean they weren't gun-toting mercenaries that pretty much had New York under siege? Nope, we had actual ninjas dressed in all black, being stealthy, had katanas on their backs, and doing ninja stuff. And that was my biggest complaint about the first movies, that like you had a movie that was supposed to have ninja stuff in it, but barely any ninja stuff was involved aside from showing the Ninja Turtles getting trained from a ninjutsu book, but that was pretty much it. Like, no ninja stuff was going on, and we got it in this movie. And I have to give credit where credit is due. I appreciated that. As expected, most of the CGI effects in this movie was pretty good. I had no complaints there. It looked nice. One of the interesting things you find out in the movie is when they introduce Casey Jones. You got Stephen Amell introduced early on in the movie, and they show that he's a cop. FM, to be more specific, he was a corrections officer. Tomato, tomato. The reason I find it interesting because they found a way to kind of plant the seed for his whole need for justice thing going on in Casey Jones. So And that aspect of his character, I actually thought that was kind of a cool add-in. A little cliche, but alright, I'll accept that. In this movie, you get a decent amount of action that takes place like throughout the movie, and most of it is pretty good. Especially anything that has to do with the ninjas or the turtles. Like I said, the ninjas were doing ninja stuff. And actually showing them, like, you know, doing actual martial arts, throwing smoke pellets and flashbangs and stuff like that or whatever. It was actually cool to see. And of course, the turtles doing their stuff, a lot of that stuff was actually pretty cool looking too, just showing them doing like all the acrobatic stuff, you know, here and there. But, you know, what else are you gonna expect from that? Hey guys, notice how FM keeps referencing back to the turtles? Yeah, I guess I'm busted here. So there's a reason why I keep referencing back to the turtles, because they, again, are the only good thing about this movie. So with that being said, let's move on to the next segment. Where do I start? Alright, so remember when I was saying how Brian T, please forgive me if I'm messing up his name still, how cool he was as Shredder? As cool as he was, he didn't do anything in this movie. Like, he still had dialogue and he kept a constant presence in the movie, but he really didn't contribute anything of worth to this movie. Like, he was there at the beginning, he was there sporadic during the middle, and once the third act start, he was just gone. And I'll get more into that once we get to the light spoiler talk segment of the video. For most of you that kept up with the trailers, you guys know that Krang makes his appearance in this movie. The thing about that is that he got the Doctor Doom treatment from the new Fantastic Four, meaning that he showed up a bit in the very beginning and then he doesn't show up again until the end of it. Then of course you got Megan Fox basically being Megan Fox. She really brought nothing new to April. She was just being her casual Megan Fox self through most of the movie, going into places where she shouldn't be, to where she should have died like several times over. That's all I can say about that. I really wish you were able to keep up with the April kill count in this movie, FM. Yeah, I stopped because I was trying to be fair when I was watching the movie. See, here's the thing, guys. When I watched the first movie, there was this thing I pretty much came up with where I basically followed a kill count for April, where I basically marked down the number of times I think April should have died in the movie. Which in this movie they started pretty early, but I stopped because for the sake of being fair, I wanted to watch this movie with an open mind, whether you believe it or not. Now, when it comes to Stephen Amell as Casey Jones, they didn't really add much dimension to his character at all. I like Stephen Amell. I like him as Oliver Queen in CW's Arrow. As Casey Jones, the way they wrote him, not so much. To be honest, he was really there as Casey Jones just to be the hot guy to the hot girl. And that's essentially the formula they went with between the whole dynamic between Casey and April, if there even was a dynamic to begin with. Now, when it concerns Bebop and Rocksteady, as entertaining as they were for the majority, there were times where a lot of the stuff they did was just extra juvenile, to where as the older fan kind of would take you out of the movie a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, I get that the demeanor of Bebop and Rocksteady is supposed to be childish. I understand that that's intended, but sometimes, even in that aspect, the movie makes it go overboard. The other thing that bothered me about this movie is that the camp factor of this movie got cranked up to 11. FM, aren't movies like this supposed to be campy? Isn't that the whole idea of it? Marv, let me explain it so even you can understand it. I can enjoy a movie's campiness if it's done right. I can still go back and watch Sam Raimi's first two Spider-Man movies that were full of camp in their own right, but it was done in a balancing way that made it entertaining. In this movie, it's just like, hey, let's take everything from the 80s cartoon and just plop it in this movie and just go with that. Some parts work, others didn't, and at the end of the day, it just felt forced. FM, the only thing it's forced is your projection of the old stuff onto the new stuff. First of all, Marv, I'm not that much of a junkie for nostalgia as you think I am, alright? I appreciate a new movie for what it is as compared to the old one, but you have to call a spade sometimes, okay? That's the whole point of actually subjectively analyzing something. Tomato, tomato, FM. Marv, you know what's also being subjective? You being a D-bag. You call it being a D-bag, I call it evolution. Again, why is he the voice in my head? Now, while we're still on the subject of things being forced, the comedic aspect, aside from all the bebop and rocksteady that we already know, all that's going to be over the top, that Michelangelo's humor a bit was a little forced at times too. I do get that Mikey is supposed to be that dumb comic relief in the group of heroes, but is there such thing as like a character being too dumb? Dumb and Dumber. So yeah, some of the comedy that was in there felt a little bit forced. You'll get a chuckle from it here and there, but sometimes it wears thin after a while. And now going back to the campy side of this movie, whoo boy, Baxter Stockman. Dear God. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. The moment I found out Tyler Perry was going to be Baxter Stockman, I already had my reservations right then and there. And after seeing this movie, they were for good reason. They turned up the camp on him. They went from 11 to 99 with him. And I was just like, oh, please stop. Like, I think Tyler Perry is a decent actor. And, you know, for dramas or comedies, you know, that's kind of his thing, whether he's in Medea costume or not. The whole being the nerd scientist and all that, it comes with it, and them kind of going 80s style with it. It just, it was hard to watch. At least for me it was. It basically felt like Jamie Foxx from Amazing Spider-Man 2 all over again. TMNT featuring Revenge of the Nerd. That's pretty much what it felt like. Now, for my insight on this movie, the only thing that I can say is that probably younger kids are going to enjoy this more than, say, somebody within my age bracket that have at least grown up with like previous incarnations of the Ninja Turtles. After really thinking about this movie, after watching it, I can really conclude that this really was not meant for anyone in our age bracket. It just wasn't. It's just one of those things where they make these movies that has nostalgia to it, that they try to do it for a new, younger audience, and essentially it kind of talks down to them as far as their content. It's just like, hey, we mentioned that person. Oh, here's a fart joke. And then it's not really treating the younger audience like they actually have like interesting thoughts of their own. It's just really just there to just be plopped in front of you, and it's like, hey, it's Ninja Turtles on there. We doing all this weird, all this little childish stuff. Hey, here you go. That's basically what I was able to get from that. Well, FM, if you know it's not for you, there ain't no reason for you to be mad then. It's not even the fact that I'm mad at it. It's just something I feel that could have been much better than what it was, instead of just going for the cheap thrill. That's how I look at it. Film snob. Marv, I have a word that I need you looked up. It's called tact. Please research it. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to that part of the video where you need to stop and skip, or whatever the case may be. I'll put the link in this video somewhere so you can click it and move ahead if you don't want to get it ruined. So, here we go. One of the issues I've had was this scene they had with April and Baxter Stockman. Again, I'm not sure how much time has passed between the first movie and this one, but whatever the case may be, April has some kind of gadgety thing that Donatello built her, and she's trying to get some information from Baxter Stockman, and whatever kind of watch thing she has supposed to like download files from his tablet or whatever, because she's trying to find out whether or not he's working for Shredder. We don't know her reasoning as to why she suspects him, but either way, that's how the movie essentially starts. And they have this conversation where April's trying to give him the all googly eyes while she's downloading the data. And there's a particular part in there that kind of bothered me a little bit. And she's trying to pretend that she's like all fascinated with Baxter Stockman's work and whatever, and it says this whole thing, well, like, I'm more of a geek instead of a nerd. It's like the difference between Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. And I'm like, what? It's just one of those things that just left me just looking at the screen like, really? So FM, the scene made you start acting like The Miz? I guess I'll take that, because the scene itself was just odd, and then with Baxter Stockman acting all weird and whatever. See, they had Stockman doing these weird things throughout the movie. Mostly it's just this whole like weird Igor / Dr. Frankenstein laugh they had him doing. And it was just like, it just made me think like, oh God, why? Why is this necessary? As far as Casey goes, Casey just... I don't know. Like, it wasn't Casey Jones to me. It just wasn't. They kind of developed his character a little, but not to where you really gave a crap about him. Like, you just knew that he was Casey Jones, and then he becomes another ally of the Turtles, and it's pretty much it. You don't really feel for his character a whole lot. And that's even with them trying to play the whole underdog angle with him, because he's this aspiring detective and no one takes him seriously, and the chief of police kind of treats him like crap. And I mean, even with that, it's just like, okay, all right, you're there. He was in charge of transporting Shredder and coincidentally Bebop and Rocksteady in some armored car, and of course the Foot are trying to break Shredder out. And then the Turtles show up, make things difficult, and Baxter Stockman is monitoring all this in the meantime. So yeah, he does work for Shredder, and the thing is, when stuff starts getting hairy and they can't seem to extract him the regular way, Stockman decides to use some kind of untested technology that he was working on to teleport him to where he was, and it succeeds, but apparently it teleports Shredder to Dimension X where he meets Krang, and Krang is obviously monitoring Shredder. He knows who he is, and they just quickly make this pact to where, okay, Shredder helps Krang get through the dimension and they'll conquer Earth together. And bam, that's how everything kind of gets set in motion. Like, the scene was probably about 2.5 minutes, and Shredder just agrees to go along with this thing that he's never met before in his life. And it just has me thinking like, okay, I guess this is what I have to look forward to with the rest of this movie. So let's look at the list. We got overdone campiness, extra childish and forced humor, Megan Fox, underutilized Stephen Amell, Shredder not doing nothing, Krang only showing up at the beginning and end of the movie. The only thing you can ask at this point is, what else was there? Oh yeah, I know. The final fight of the movie. Final fight? Wasn't it more like a wrestling match? What pretty much happened at the end of this movie was essentially the same thing that they did at the end of the first movie, except instead of being on the roof of a building, it was basically the Technodrome. You have the Turtles reaching their destination to fight the big baddie, while also at the same time you have the secondary characters consisting of April, Vern, and also Casey doing something at an alternate location that directly determines the results of the Turtles fight. And that's when Shredder meets Krang face to face before the fight. He's like, yes, we'll rule together. And then Krang's like, oh, I changed my mind. Then he just freezes Shredder and puts him into this vault in the Technodrome, and that's the last time we see Shredder. That's it. Yep. We didn't even get a chance to see Shredder really do anything. Like, we seriously didn't. Shredder didn't even so much as fight anyone. That's just... I can't explain that, but that's what happened. A funny thing I have to point out that happened during the third act was when Casey, April, and Vern were trying to go to whatever they were trying to do to stop this whole portal thingy. And Casey was supposed to keep Bebop and Rocksteady occupied while Vern and April stopped the portal. And Bebop and Rocksteady are riding on hogs and chasing Casey around this parking lot. And there was a part when, I believe it was Rocksteady, he was riding on whatever he was riding on, and he kicked Casey, and Casey went flying into the side of an SUV. And the whole driver's side of that SUV was caved in like another car had hit it. And Casey just gets back up and just walks it off. FM, you sure you weren't watching Civil War again? I'm pretty sure, Marv, okay? This was a normal human being that got kicked by a mutant rhino. Anybody knows anything about human physiology, at that kind of impact, his body should have been juice. But then again, this is a Michael Bay produced movie. You cannot insert logic into this kind of thing. Just one more thing I wanted to touch on before I concluded this video, because I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on spoiler talk. I'm still so glad the sagas have ended. Tact, Marv, tact. Anyway, as I was saying, one of the issues that I have with these versions of the Turtles and the movies in general is, with them making the Turtles bigger and stronger, and they're supposed to be ninjas, the thing is that you don't have any real concern for them. Like, they are essentially like 4 tanks, and the only really ninja stuff that you see them doing when they're together is when they're doing the acrobatic stuff or whatever, but you never see them fight anyone hand to hand. Like, the first movie just mostly considered the Turtles getting the dog mess beat out of them by Shredder, and them never really doing anything. Like, you just see them doing some acrobatics here, they might throw a kick or something here and there, but you never really see them like really throw hands. There was a part in Out of the Shadows when they were on a plane and it was full of ninja soldiers, and Raphael was just like, just talking mess, and in the next scene you just see all the ninjas getting thrown out of the plane, and that was it. You don't see the Turtles really do anything as far as fight choreography. Like, it's basically non-existent in this movie with them. That's pretty much why Marv so eloquently put the last fight being a wrestling match. Oh, you gave me credit for something. Thanks, FM. Aside from all that stuff, like I said, the best thing about the movie was the interaction between the brothers, especially when they got to the part when they were like talking about the mutagen, where it could possibly turn them human, and it just caused like this friction in between all the brothers, and you were kind of invested in that. Like, the way they didn't quite follow it up with like very strongly after that, but it was a good aspect. I mean, like I said, the movie wasn't total garbage, but that was definitely something that was good about the movie. So to go ahead and conclude this, I'm going to give this movie a not so marvelous score of 4 out of 10. 1 point for each turtle. That's what this movie gets. 4 of a kind. Well, it was good while it lasted. Yeah, and unfortunately this movie pretty much reminded us that sequels can still be worse than the original. So family, that's pretty much all I have to say about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. You post your comments down below, whether you've seen it, with your thoughts on it, your expectations, all this, that, and the other. Either way, I look forward to interacting with you and all that good stuff. So as usual, go ahead and like, subscribe, all those wonderful things, and I will check you guys into the next video. Until then, keep following my advice to go nerd, but nerd responsibly. This is your boy, Fallen Marvel, and to you humans and mutants alike, my name is Marv, and family, we are out.